Hey guys, and welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe, and as always, I'm joined by Nathan. Today, we're talking about more live action series on Netflix, and more specifically, we are talking about the series Samurai Gourmet.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh
Yes.
my.
There you go. George Takei is right here as well. But yes, for those who don't know, Samurai Gourmet is a series that started in 2017, or launched on Netflix in 2017. And it has about 12 episodes, hasn't really got a second series or anything. But yeah, we're here to talk about that today, aren't we, Nathan?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Just a bit of like background as well. This came out in 2017, but I also watched it like back then. But so I watched the whole series back then, but I haven't actually seen it since. Nathan's watched it for this episode, obviously.
Yep, my first time ever.
And you've watched all the episodes as well, haven't you?
Yes, all 12 episodes.
So I rewatched it up to episode 8. And obviously I've seen all the episodes anyway, so like I could try and remember what happens in the last 4, but I got a general idea of it. But yeah, like so I've revisited the series, you've visited it for the first time, and we're gonna chat about that. So
Yeah.
woo.
It's actually quite an easy series to watch, to be fair, because they're like really short. I didn't actually check the time properly when I was making my notes. So like it was based off of the first episode, but I think they're only like 25 minutes ish.
Yeah, they kind of range because the first episode's 18 minutes long.
Ah.
And then I think from there on they kind of vary from length to length. I think one of them is like 24 minutes long or something. So they have different run times. But they are all like kind of individual episodes. They all follow the general same theming
Yeah.
about which I don't know if you want to give a quick rundown of what this series actually is, Nathan, before we jump
Yeah,
into it.
sure. So Samurai Gourmet is based on Masayuki Kusumi's essay and the manga of the same title, featuring the life of Takeshi Kasumi. Takeshi Kasumi has spent his entire life devoted to his job. Now a retired man, he finds himself with plenty of extra time on his hands. While on an afternoon walk, Kasumi discovers the joys of a daytime drinking and the realization that he is now free to eat and drink what he wants when he wants. Provided to us by IMDb. Thanks for that.
Our Lord and Savior. If it isn't Mal, it's IMDb.
Hey man, it just makes it easier, you know. Like I could write out my own thing, but
It is
whatever.
streamlined, yeah. We're not like, we're not focused on it, but that's the source of that. But yes, that is basically the rundown of it. It's about this retired guy who goes around different restaurants and different bars, doing like ordering food and drinking.
Yeah, basically eating the things that you always wanted to eat, but he couldn't because he was too busy, and now day drinking because he's got nothing better to do. Apparently,
Yeah. But like the thing is about this series as well is that like during each of his like different restaurant and bar encounters, like there's like always like a hiccup along the way somewhere, or there's like some sort of inconvenience which he's like kind of like he's quite sheepish around these social situations. And he's like, oh, how should I handle this? And then he always envisions this samurai and how the samurai would handle it.
which like it's great to encourage him to go out of his comfort zone, but it's
Yeah.
like really weird because it's like I get it, it's Japan, and some people
Mhm.
still do follow like some variation of like the Bushido code, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like this old man shouldn't really be trying to emulate like a Ronin, like walking around as a masterless, lawless like samurai doing whatever the fuck he wants. It's kind of like, yeah. I mean, I
I think
guess.
in the show itself, like bear in mind, like yes, the samurai goes around and says what he wants and does what he wants in the like visions that Kasumi has.
But it's like he's like a good Ronin, you know. He's not like out
Yeah.
there just slashing people up because it's like, ah, fuck off, you're in my way, kind of thing. He's more like, look, I'm gonna show you how to be a better person, but in my own really weird, like abrupt way that
It's
is
so
completely abnormal to Japanese society.
it's like such a like it's just basically shows how a samurai would handle a social situation, which
Pretty
is
much.
really strange. Like obviously with no cutting, no death or anything like that. And obviously this whole series is really focused around food as well. It's worth saying that. And you watch the first episode, you watch the second episode, you'll get even the title gives it away. Let's be honest.
You
Like the
you
food
only
thing
have to
is
watch
just
one episode, and it is the whole thing is basically like a love letter to the food of Japan.
Mhm.
There is no better way to put it because it is literally he has the best time with almost anything he eats,
Mhm.
give or take. I say anything because it's
There's a few
yeah,
episodes
a
where
couple of
it's
episodes
like
where he doesn't, but that's part of the episode. But like just generally, it's about this old man who is trying basically kind of learning to live life again because all he's known is the office, which this series kind of is a statement on like Japanese work culture
it
in a
is a little
way.
bit. Yeah. I mean, it also like doesn't really like break the stigma of anything like that. It doesn't say like, "Oh, I should go and live my life." It's just literally like, "Oh, this is what I could have done. This is what I did when I was in the office, and
Yeah,
here's
and
what I
then
can
it's
do
like,
now." So it's like,
oh, but
like
it's always I find a lot of it's always him. He goes somewhere and then he's like, "Oh, people are judging me about what I want to do." And then
yeah,
Samurai comes up and he's like, "Ah, fuck it, do it. Oh, I'll do what I
yeah.
want." And then he's like, "I will do that. Thank you, Mr. Samurai.
Yeah, and
I
sometimes he
will
doesn't
do
do
that."
it. So, it's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
sometimes he
Sometimes he
doesn't.
does not. He's like, I'm gonna do this, and then he walks up, and then he's like, "Hi," and then
Like,
just
yeah,
stops. He's like, he chickens out. He chickens out so
like
much.
the
Like, 'cause
best example of that is which episode is it? It's
is it the
uh
second one?
I think it's the 6th episode for me.
Oh,
Lunch at an
oh, right.
old-fashioned cafe,
Yes,
right?
yes, I remember this. Yeah,
He
yeah.
goes to this proper like old style cafe. If you play Persona 5, imagine sort of LeBlanc, the cafe you stay
Yeah,
at,
that
right?
is spot on. Yeah.
Imagine that. And then like so he's there and he's being all hipster because he's bought his book and he's like, "Do you know what? This is the best place to read a book. You get coffee, you get food, you sit there, enjoy your book." Then some guys come in and they're noisy. The samurai like shows them up, actually does cut them down. Very rarely does he cut anyone down, the samurai, but he cut
Yeah.
these guys down. And
Mhm.
then and then like Kasumi or Takeshi, like the old guy gets up and he looks like he's about to say something like, "Please, like, guys, shut up." And then he bumps into the waitress and he's just like, um, "Can I move tables, please?"
Yeah. But before that, he even says, Can I get the fruit parfait?"
Oh
like,
yeah.
like he
Fruit
says,
parfait
fruit parfait.
onegaishimasu.
And then like it looks like he's about to say something, and it's like, "Oh no, I'll move tables." And it's like so he avoids the situation completely, but it ends up being that the waitress is the one that's
Yeah,
actually
innit?
like telling the guys to shut up, and they like they sound off it. They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, we're making noise." It is like out of all the situations you can have, that is like the most rational thing. No one needs to get cut down. No one's getting into a fight or anything. It's just like this is still grounded in like the real world.
That whole thing was really funny though, because the way it's shot is like the waitress almost becomes like his hero in that moment.
Yeah,
Like,
it's when she walks back into the
yeah,
kitchen or
he
whatever.
almost
It's all
like
slow mo and
it's
shit.
slow mo and sort of like gets a bit weird with the focus, and it's almost like he's
Yeah.
like, "That's my idol. Oh my god, what a goddess! She stopped the noisy men." And it's like she's just doing her job, mate. Like, calm down.
It's not something anything special that's going
Yeah,
down, but
innit?
yeah.
It's just like she just told them, "You're disturbing other customers. Please be quiet."
That is the one thing about this series as well, because obviously, like, there's a lot of episodes where it focuses on Kasumi enjoying food as well, and like he enjoys food so much, and he goes into detail about what he loves about a certain dish, and there's like he picks it apart and stuff like that, and like says stuff like, "Oh, it reminds me of a childhood," but then
Yeah,
there's also some episodes where he's doing that, and then there's like some guy or like someone next to him just watching him be like, Are you okay?"
yeah. Is it that
Yeah.
good? Oh,
Yes.
I just really liked it. Well, yeah, clearly because you were smiling so
Yeah.
much.
Or it's like I think it's episode 5 where he's on the film set,
Oh
I think.
yeah, and that
And
actor's like, "Is it that good?" Oh
yeah.
yeah,
It's a box lunch, like, and it's the
yeah,
most basic thing, and he's like, "Oh, this is," and like he's like Kasumi's like smiling, picking apart his food. He's like, "Oh, this is so nice. This is so nice." Like he's just talking about rice, and he's like, "The pickled plum represents Japan's flag. It glows red." And it's like he goes into it, and then meanwhile, these other extras is watching him like it's just a box lunch.
yeah. And are you okay?
Like,
Like,
so
do
it's
you
like
need a moment? Like,
it's so jokes where you just see those like moments like come through in the series.
bro, those moments are the best. like
Mhm.
with his wife. His wife, like, I don't know who wrote her like that,
Yeah.
but the character of his wife, like, cuts him down in ways that are just so funny. She
Yeah.
just takes the wind out of his sails constantly, but not in like a demeaning way. She just sort of does it, but it's
Mm.
really funny because he always feels so accomplished, and then she's like, "Okay, great, thanks."
It's like the whole thing we were saying about everything about this series is like so normal, but Kasumi like overemphasizes it so much. Like everything's a big deal to him. And when his wife comes on, she's like, "Yeah, that's like basically my day to day." And he's like, "Oh,
That's
okay."
like that's like the first episode, right?
It
He
is, isn't
makes
it? Yeah.
the first episode's really great because it sort of shows you everything this is going to be about,
Hmm.
and like it's over dramatized because it's again this old man. He's just retired and now he's basically getting to do what he wants, and he has to relearn to just sort of enjoy life. And like my favorite line from that episode, Pepe, just after he
Hmm.
gets poured the beer and
Oh yeah.
he's drinking it, and then he says, "For the first time after retiring, I feel like I've got a new perspective on life." From a single sip of midday beer.
God, that's a big accomplishment.
I
I wish I
I
felt
know,
that much
right?
accomplishment from drinking at midday. I swear to God.
Like it was so funny because I was just
Yeah.
like, especially from where we are, right? The cultural
Yeah.
difference is amazing. He's like, "Oh wow, I've got a new lease on life. I can day drink," and I'm like, "Motherfucker, you can go any street anywhere in England and find one fucker drinking it at
Yeah.
any point of the day,
Any
anyway."
There's a pub on every corner.
In it,
Guaranteed there's gonna be someone in there drinking a beer.
I was
Sometimes it's heavier than a beer, I'll tell you
in it.
that.
It's things like that. He gets super hyped for things like the simplest things.
Yeah.
But then, like, at the end of the episode, it was hilarious as well because, like, he meets his wife on the street. They're walking home, and she just says, "Red face. The face is red." And he starts freaking out because he's like, "Oh my God, she's figured me out. I'm not supposed to drink during the day." And he's like, trying to figure out,
Mhm.
come up with some sort of excuse or something. And then she just turns around to him and goes, "I drank too much wine at lunch," laughs, and then just walks off. And and you're just like, this is what it's gonna be. She's just gonna keep doing things like this, and it's hilarious.
I mean, that's like both of those characters. Like they're like the only two real, apart from the samurai as well, that
Yeah,
are reoccurring. But like they're both written so well. Like for a series, it doesn't really go in too depth into character. Like Kasumi has a few flashbacks now and then about his childhood or like his work life. But like both of those characters are written so well. Like I think like it's something that's so basic but like so wholesome at the same time about the series.
that's like the perfect word for this series. It's just wholesome. Like
Yeah.
generally, just wholesomeness. It's really light-hearted, and it's just kind of nice to see someone enjoy the simpler things in life.
I think that's it because in these episodes as well, there's very rarely anything that's super dramatic as well. Like there's like occasional there's like small conflicts, like the smallest thing where
Oh yeah,
like Kasui might end up like getting into a very slight argument. I say slight, slight seems like an overestimation of what it actually is because it's not really an argument at all. It's basically him just saying like I don't know, I think it was in the umbrella bar one. You remember you know that
oh yeah,
episode I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. I think it might be episode 7. I can't remember.
Yes,
Um,
that's episode 7. Yep.
yeah, which is actually I think my favorite episode of the whole series because
Ah,
like I think just because it like it just summarizes the whole wholesome episode, you know, like the whole thing we're talking
fair.
about. Like it gives a little bit of conflict about that guy that walks in and like he's like, oh yeah, these kids don't know what they're talking about. Management's like the best. And like it turns out that he's actually retired and he's like, oh, I don't know what to do with retired life. So you actually see his side of the story that everyone's like super happy as well. Like got the umbrellas in the bar and stuff like that. And then at the end, you get the samurai toasting, and then Kasumi's like, "Oh yeah."
That is I just wanna say, just as a general statement though, that is a lot of bad luck. Like, if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
superstitious, that was 9 umbrellas open indoors. That is a lot of fucking bad luck there, bro.
My one thing about the episode, I love how wholesome it was, and again, this is my favorite episode. But it's also the fact that it's a regular thing that happens
Yeah.
because like when they're like, "Oh, the ceiling's leaking," and
The
then
usual,
like the
mama,
usual,
usual.
yeah, and then like she just brings out umbrellas for each of the customers. They all just sit there in this what
In
was it?
this
The
little like izakaya with
izakaya, yeah.
umbrellas. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and it's like, "Oh, this is like a regular thing." And I'm there thinking, That's cool and all, but like, is it not does it not smell of damp?" Like, is that
Well,
not a
like
thing? Like, this is one thing, like, in a izakaya of all places as well.
I would be like, if I was in that bar, I'd be like, "Oh, this is kind of quirky. I'm never coming back though. This
Yeah.
is so awkward. I got to hold an umbrella now whilst
Uh,
I'm
you
trying
can't
to
even
eat
eat
and
because
drink or
because the
whatever."
guy
Like,
the guy was saying, "Oh yeah, where's my karaage?" And it's like, "Oh wait, the cookers aren't working because it's raining indoors," and they're all
"Oh, you
laughing
can have
about
some
it.
of my chicken. It's a bit wet
Yeah,
though. Wet chicken. Oh
okay,
my
yeah,
god!"
yeah. And
Like,
like, I'd be there like, bro, what about other potential customers that are walking in right now? Some guy walks in like, "Oh, cool, I'll get some like yakitori." No, you're not.
I,
It's raining indoors. Get the fuck out.
that's what I'm saying. For me, I'd be like, I think I'd take my chances with the rain. So I'm gonna. Can I get my check? I'm gone.
Like
Like,
this is like the very cynical side to us, by the way, coming
oh
up
yeah, for
because
sure.
the episode itself is not like supposed to be. It's like it's supposed to bring that wholesome meaning. We're just picking it apart like that. Again, like I think it's just because it's a happy episode in it, and like,
Yeah.
but it's yeah, in reality, yeah, that shit wouldn't happen.
I
but
mean, like, it's when you were saying like he gets into like confrontations. I thought you were gonna mention episode 4, to be fair. That was the most
oh yeah,
awkward episode because it
mm.
was the most like real.
Which one was episode 4 again? Remind me.
That's the yakiniku one, where he meets his niece
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, we
she's
meet his
just
niece, yeah.
like pissed at him for no reason. That one was too real, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like that is very true. Like, because it's obviously his niece is struggling to find a job, but she actually wants to be in a band, but she hasn't told her parents that at all. And like every time Kasumi wants to talk to her about it or like tries to bring it up, she shuts him down and is like pushing him away. He's like, "Oh, adults always want to tell me what to do. Why are you telling me what to do?" And it's all over yakiniku as well. So she's like putting all the meat on the grill, and like it's like, yeah, it's like freaking like, I don't care. Let's just cook it all right now. And he like Kasumi's like, no, we need to take our time with it. We do each bit individually, or we do this bit of meat first. And then she's like, oh god, that everyone's told what to do. And it's like,
yeah, it was a tougher episode to watch because
mhm.
thematically it didn't quite fit the rest of the other episodes because this was the least like light-hearted, I guess.
Yeah, I
But
get you.
at the same time, like it was, I don't know. I felt like it had a really good message at the same time, though. Like
It still had like the thing is with it, like this is one thing with these episodes, they all come round full circle in the end as well. It's the fact that like they'll come up with an issue that's in this episode. They'll be like, again, the issues aren't really a massive part. It's like 50% food stuff, 50% like story of like confrontations or whatever issues. But like with this one, it was very much about Kasumi's niece and like about job stuff and like about communication as well. Like I think that whole episode was about like communication, actually talking to
yeah,
people. Like that's one thing, and obviously it has a flashback about Kasumi's work life as well. Obviously, because he took her to the place where his boss took him. So it's like there's a whole load of different themes in it, like about that one. And
yeah. I
again, it
think
always it ends really well as well. By the way, it does
yeah,
end
it
with
it
quite
it
yeah.
ends with quite happily, but like I feel like besides the normal message that the entire series is trying to portray
Hmm.
is like, you can follow the rules of society, but you can still have fun in your own way. You can still do the things you like. Kind of, it's not quite fuck what other people think, but like you shouldn't
Yeah.
think too much about what people are thinking. You should just try to
Hmm.
enjoy yourself.
That's it. Yeah.
And then like episode 4 like piled extra messages on top because
Yeah.
that was the same sort of message, like forge your
Hmm.
own path by all means, but you need to still try and respect the old ways and understand.
Yeah, I get you. Mean it comes through with a little bit like, okay, yeah. The whole series has been projecting this one message, and this is like, if you're young, maybe you should do things a bit differently, though. which is the one thing that guys, yeah. When you bring it up now, it's like, okay, yeah, that is a bit, but yeah, I like to think that it's more around the communication, but you are right. It's that kind of mixed
I mean,
messages in that one.
it is like about communication because you know it's like about talking because he does say to her like you need to tell your parents and you need to get your dad's not permission, but you know like you need to get him to understand.
Yes.
So it is still communication, but it is also still sort of like just like an extra couple of layers on top of the normal like live your life.
That's one thing as well. Kasumi does actually understand where his niece is coming from as well. So he isn't just completely shutting her down like, "Oh yeah, don't follow your dreams," the blah blah blah. He just says, "I can understand why you want to do this, but you have to go around it the right way." So he's not like a complete asshole about it because he's not really an asshole character at all. Because he's a very traditional guy. Obviously, he was a salaryman for like what was it? Like, must be like 20 years, 20 years,
More
40
than
years at
that,
least.
like
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
gonna say, because he's 60
yeah.
and you get flashbacks
Yeah,
to when he was like
yeah.
20 odd, so it's got to
Yeah,
be
I
like
think that's where I
40
got
years
confused.
of.
Yeah, so yeah, 40 years of continuous work as well. He's always worked for the same company.
Well, that's the way it is in Japan, isn't it? Like you join the company, you're not supposed to move around. You're supposed to stay at the same company for your entire life. It's strange.
Yeah. But that's the thing about it. That's one thing as well with this series is like you do get a more interesting insight into Japanese culture with it as well. Because obviously it's just this guy who going about his daily life, and obviously he's done things a certain way for so long. And you'd think like, why is he doing that? That's a bit strange that he's done that. But then you realize, oh wait, oh that's just how things are, I guess. Like I'm again, this is a series so it probably does take like some sort of liberties in terms of like how realistic it is. I'm not entirely sure.
I
I
mean,
don't.
it is kind of because like
Yeah.
it's still TV in it, so and like based off a manga, so it's a little neater than real life would be. Like again, in episode 4, he's arguing with his niece in a yakiniku restaurant, but it's a typical Japanese restaurant. They're sharing a
Yeah.
big ass table with other people. There's loads of other people around, and she's just
Yeah.
like out loud, like screaming at him at one point,
Yeah.
and you're like, there
Yeah.
is no way in
There's creative
Japan
liberties.
that
There's definitely creative liberties
yeah,
at work here. Yeah.
like there's just certain things, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a few things in this that I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
way that would fucking happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely
But
no way.
but still, like I think it all comes down to the fact that I still think this is like a really like a great series to watch if you just want to have watch something fun, like you said, light-hearted.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to think too much. Obviously, it's just in Japanese. There's no English dub or anything like that, like we've seen with some other
To be fair,
series.
it's also not that complicated to follow either. Like they don't speak like because I mean the character's 60 years old, so he's not speaking incredibly fast either. So the subtitles don't move that fast, and you know he's taking his time to appreciate things. So you got plenty of time to read, or if you wanted to use it as listening practice, it's probably pretty good too because they don't speak super fast, and it seems pretty like fairly simple, I
Hmm.
think. So like it could be a good resource for that too.
That's good. I never really think of it that way with these kind of series, but you're right. Yeah, I can understand. Like, what you've said is spot on as well. They do speak slowly enough for it to like be, I don't know, recognizable, I guess. But like one thing I did want to, a couple things I wanted to mention as well about this. One of the things is the acting in this, because when you look at other like Japanese live action series, like I feel like some of these really come across overacted. But with Samurai Gourmet, this felt really natural for for a live action series. This
Well,
doesn't feel like it's
minus when he's like eating.
well, I mean, there's some bits where yeah, when he drinks a beer and he's literally just pokes it up, it's like ah.
Yeah.
And that is the most like egregious it gets. But even then, it's not that bad. Because I've had like a day where like I'm just like I'm absolutely knackered. And I take a sip of like a drink or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's good. Like obviously, it's a
Yeah,
lot
but
more. I probably
you're
wouldn't.
not like looking like you're slamming it back and then, you know, like bringing it forward and you look up to the sky with utter joy and then you sigh heavily like
Well, there's one.
ah.
I
You
think
know
the
what I
only
mean?
time
Like
I feel, I think the only time where I feel it's like it's overacted. I think he's in episode 2, where he's eating the ramen and it's the worst ramen he's ever eaten. So he's eating it bit by bit, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna eat the noodles. Noodles can't be that bad." And then literally, like he does with like when he's had a good beer, he's like, "But in this time, it's absolutely disgusting." So he just tilts his head back, and his like, eyes roll back a little bit as well. And it's just like, okay, that's a bit far now. I think that's the most overacted I feel like it got.
I
But
mentioned in episode 2, I didn't really want to bring it up, but like that I had issues with that episode,
I
man.
can imagine why you have issues with
Yeah, it
that.
borderline felt offensive to me. I don't typically get offended by racial
Yeah.
things a lot, but that felt like it was not attacking me personally, but like,
For context in this, episode 2, Kasumi tries to find ramen, but all his favorite ramen spots are busy, and he doesn't wanna wait, so he tries this new place, and so happens to be a Chinese place,
yeah.
and, like, everything that he runs through with it
It
is just
honestly,
like
it becomes every like stereotype.
yeah.
And the thing is, it felt offensive.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I know and I have experienced those exact stereotypes as a customer.
Uh-huh.
So I can't exactly be like it's wrong, and I can't
It
exactly claim racism because I've seen it firsthand. I know those
But
stereotypes
I
and
think it's because it's been portrayed on screen, which like,
yeah,
yeah, I guess it's,
yeah,
and the thing is, I think like it doesn't like going through those experiences. It doesn't just have to be solely like to a Chinese place as well. This
yeah,
could
that could have
happen
been
in
any
any
place.
restaurant,
Yeah.
but it just so happens
They
to
really
fall.
call it out, and because it's like Japan
Yeah,
and China, and it's like I'm not trying to defend either side, but like there's
yeah,
issues there,
yes, yeah.
and it does really feel like
It doesn't feel like it's a subtle dig to China. It feels like it's a huge dig
it feels
because
like someone's kicking you on purpose. That's what
yeah.
it felt like.
It's like it's not like it's a subtle restaurant where it's like, oh, this has Chinese themes. It's like, oh, a Chinese restaurant with like blatant Chinese,
Yeah,
like kind of like everything visually is Chinese. He walks in and like it's very like stereotypically a Chinese restaurant. It's
again,
like
that everything is a stereotype
yeah,
about that.
everything. Yeah, it is
Absolutely
huge.
everything, and it's
Yeah.
it's painful to watch as a Chinese person.
Hmm.
And that's why I say it felt offensive. I really felt it. I did actually sort of get a little mad watching it because I was
Hmm.
like, "Come on, now that's a bit unfair. Like
Yeah.
that's taking it a bit far." But then, like I said, I don't want to justify it,
Yeah.
but I've definitely experienced exactly that. I know those kind of restaurants. I know those kind of people, proprietors of those businesses. I've
Hmm.
seen those firsthand. So it's not exactly wrong.
I tell you what makes it feel like probably more offensive is the fact that there's no redemption to it.
Yeah,
I think it's because
absolutely
like
no redemption.
everything is like it's negative. The food's bad. Like the restaurant's like dirty. There's like, literally every like everything that can go wrong in a restaurant, the rude stuff or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It's all bad. But at the end, like you think, oh, maybe like this woman who he's having like these disagreements with or whatever. Maybe there's a reason why it's gone like this. Maybe she'll get some redeeming factor. And
Nope.
it's like, no, he just walks out the restaurant and it's like, it's just a completely bad experience. There's no reason why it's like that. It just is.
Yeah.
And that's what probably makes it feel a lot more offensive in it. It's like
Oh,
there's
for
no
sure.
redemption. There's no
For sure.
redemption.
Especially
Yeah.
because like you feel from the way it's happened, right? Because that's only episode 2. So you think, oh, maybe the ramen will be good. No, it's not. The service is terrible, the place is terrible, and then his whole day is salvaged by a pack of instant ramen that he eats at home.
Yeah.
And that's almost what makes it feel worse. Like Pepe said, is that he gets saved by just a thing you bought from the supermarket. No, no, fuck
Mhm.
the Chinese restaurant and fuck all of that shit. Instant ramen. That's what it's all about.
One thing that I wanted to bring up as well, this is the second thing I wanted to bring up about the series, is that obviously it's so focused on food. And this is one thing as well. Do not watch this if you're hungry,
Oh,
by
dude,
the way.
I did that last night. I was watching the
Oh,
yakiniku episode
yeah.
2 hours after I'd eaten my dinner, and I was just sitting there like, "Yo, I'm hungry now."
I want to eat this. I want to eat, like, literally, because especially if you watch these episodes back to back, you're like, I want that. I want that. I want that. And it's because they make every shot of the food in this episode, no matter whether it's instant ramen, whether it's yakiniku, whatever, they'll make it look absolutely spectacular as well. And like, this is just like like you said, a love letter to food in general because
Yeah.
everything looks so
You
delicious.
know things look delicious when I don't even I've seen Japanese breakfast at, like,
Yeah.
you know, a ryokan or whatever, like
Hmm.
a
Like a
traditional
traditional
Tao
one.
place.
Yeah.
Never appealed to me before. But in episode 3, when he has that fucking mackerel in his rice and he's having a great time,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yo, I could go for a Japanese breakfast," like,
They sell it
dang.
so well, like, literally the whole way, like, it's done, like, obviously it gives his description as well. Like, so, like, it's not just the shots of the food which are spectacular, it's like, the scripting of it is so good as well because he's literally just going through every detail. It's like, oh, like, even the rice tastes good, like, it's because it's by, like, the coast or whatever that all the food is saltier, so it's a different vibe to
It's
what I'd
it's
usually
almost like
have.
a live action Food Wars minus the etchy crap.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. If you like Food Wars and want to avoid the plot.
The fan service.
The fan service. Watch this, and like as I said, like it's not overacted. Or Food Wars as an anime feels overacted, like, but this is just so natural the way it comes across, and like it sells it so well. Like if you just want to see a series about food, this is the greatest way to experience it, in my
Oh,
opinion.
man. I'm now remembering because I finished the last, like, 3 episodes, like, today.
Yeah.
Dang, that made me hungry too, actually,
So
yeah.
remind me, because like the last 4 episodes, obviously I've watched this whole series before,
Yep.
but that was back in 2017. So I can't remember a lot of what happened in the last 4 episodes. I remember like because I read the synopsises and I was like, oh
Okay,
yeah, this happens,
so
this happens.
you
Yeah,
watched
sure.
8 episodes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so episode 9 is him remembering eating croquettes with his friends after school.
yeah,
So he goes on, gets croquettes from a local place, which I really want to do. I already wanted to do that,
yeah.
but now I really want to do that because it looked good. Like freshly
Yeah.
like deep fried stuff from like a local butcher or a local like
Yeah. I can already imagine it, like the way it's filmed, like
yeah.
feels like I want to get like a bunch of these different things.
And it's cheap. Like he was buying
Yeah,
croquettes for like 100 yen. So like deep fried little like it's not what we call croquettes. Well, like over here it's like potato.
yeah.
I think theirs is like pork. So it's almost like a tempura. It's almost like a katsu, but not
Yeah, I think
somehow.
katsu is probably the best way to describe it. It's like it's crunchy and it's like
Yeah,
probably got some
I
bits
think
of
it's
potato in it, but it's not like the same way that it's
I think
cooked
it's
here.
pork mince rather than
Yeah.
pork cutlet.
Yeah.
That's how croquette and katsu are different. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's episode 9.
Isn't that where he's drinking the beer outside as well and he
Yeah,
feels really guilty about it? Yeah,
it's
okay,
because
cool.
he's on a rooftop and there's like that kids, sort of like the live action like Power Ranger kind of thing going on. There's a bunch of little kids around,
Yeah.
and he thinks it's very inappropriate because there's kids around. He shouldn't be drinking, but then he's like, "Ah, screw it."
I remember this now. Yeah, I remember that bit now. Yeah.
Episode 10, he goes to the yakitori restaurant,
Yeah.
and there's that other old guy there, and then the tourists come in, and the chef gets really pissed off at them. He just already is just like in a bad mood because some foreigners have come in, and
Oh,
he doesn't
okay,
seem
yeah.
to like foreigners.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, again, kind of speaks to reality sometimes in
It
Japan. There
does,
are
but
places
this
that
is
like,
also where where you said it took liberties. Do you know for a fact if that was a real situation, he wouldn't have even given them a table. If he hated them that much, they would have kicked him out straight away and been like, "Sorry," because neither of them speak English, like the
yeah,
waitress or the chef. And typically in those situations, that's where you would get kicked out because they don't want to give you poor service because they can't speak English, so they'd rather just kick you
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
So that was like that's an example of where they took liberties because, yeah, again, the chef would not come out and scream at you because he would not have even given you the time of day. He would not even be eating at his establishment. But
Yeah.
anyway, so there's that one, and that's where Kasumi was gonna say something, but then he chickened out, and the other
Mhm.
old guy like steps in and like makes the chef realize he's being a dick.
Okay, yeah. That one I don't remember too much about that one, but yeah, I get the vibe of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next one is his anniversary with his wife. They go and eat Odin, the that sort of
Yes.
like soup broth with stuff in
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
almost like a hot pot, but not hot pot.
Kind of. Yeah, yeah.
And then the last episode is him going to a restaurant he remembers going to back when he was in university.
Mhm. And then it turns out to be shut down, right?
Actually, it moved.
That was a twist. That was a twist. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it moved, and then he found it. Yeah, he finds it quite easily. Luckily, everyone sort of tells him where it went.
Yeah. That's
Like,
it. I mean, that's even like I said, this a twist is barely like a thing.
I mean,
But
like, I
yeah.
could believe that in Japan, like, like your fellow businesses have been around for a while, so the way courtesy and stuff works, they probably would know where you went if you
Oh
moved.
yeah. I think like yeah,
Whereas
there's
over here,
certain
it's like, I don't
environment.
fucking know. Like, why would I
Yeah.
know where someone else moved? Go fucking Google it, you dickhead.
Yeah, yeah, most likely.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's different over here, but over
Yeah.
there, I could sort of see that actually being a thing. Like, you could just walk into somebody
Yeah.
else's business and be like, sorry, there was this restaurant with this name here before. Did it close down or something? And then, they'd be like, yes or no, they moved. They moved to here. That's more
Mm.
believable in Japan. That I
Yeah,
will
I
say.
could agree with that.
Um,
But yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's that one. That one was quite nice. The last episode was like probably the most wholesome
Okay,
in
yeah.
my opinion because like he goes there, he has the meal he was looking for, hash beef and rice. Looks like some sort of beef stew. Um, and it's one he ate all the time in university, and the owner actually remembers it. Like
Oh,
she doesn't
okay.
let on until he's basically monologuing as normal whilst he's eating, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Ah, I've always been bad at portioning. I always finish the beef before the rice. I always have some rice left over." And the owner slash waiter, she comes over and she puts some pickled veggies down next to him, and he's confused, and she's like, "You're the student that used to come here all the time, right? You used to eat here all the time. You'd eat this one dish all the time, and you always had rice left, and you always ate it. You always finished with pickled veggies." And he sort of looks at her like, "Whoa, you remember me? That's crazy." Which, again, in real life, that'd be a
Probably would,
fucking
yeah.
guess and a half.
Yeah,
That's either
that is a massive assumption.
like that is a guess and a half. Like, okay, she remembers, right? Some people are like that. They probably would remember
Mhm.
small
Yeah.
weird details like that. But like, if not, that is a shot in the dark. I'll tell you
Mm,
that.
yeah. God, yeah, there's a lot of things with that where it's like
But yeah,
I
it's like
mean,
it's
it's
stuff
for
like that.
story, it is for story.
Yeah,
Like, you can yeah.
it's that, and then like the owner has a photo album,
Mhm.
and she's kept all the pictures she's taken of like customers in the store, even from the old location. So he like
Oh,
looks through, and
okay.
it turns out there's loads of pictures of him because obviously he went there a lot. And then he
Yeah.
realizes that there's actually some pictures of his wife in the
Oh,
background of
yeah.
some of the pictures of him and his friends.
Oh,
So then it's like, sort of like neat little bow.
yeah. Or like it's a good little episode for that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
And then she takes the wind out of its sails. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great too.
Yeah, that is it. Innit? It's like there's wholesome, but there's like what this series does best, along with like food shots, obviously, is it's a great wholesome watch. Like there's so many good moments of this series. I mean that's why I loved it so much when I first watched it. Just because like it's just like one of those ones where you just don't have to think too much about it. You're just watching, you get hungry, like as a guy that loves food, I think I appreciate this so much. Like
Yeah,
that's
I
like
did too. It sort
yeah.
of There's not anything on there that I didn't. There's not that many things the show showed off that I don't already know of, and
Yeah.
isn't already on my list to try next time I head to Japan, whenever that is.
Yeah.
But there are a few like extra things that I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Like, it even made natto look good. This is the
Oh
one
no,
thing
it did
about it.
not. No, it did not. Shut
Oh
up.
no,
No, it didn't.
no, no, right. I'm not a Naruto fan whatsoever, right? But like the way he like was doing it, and like he talks through it and stuff like that, I was like, oh, was I doing it wrong? Because I was just eating it. Like, is it supposed to be done differently? Like, and obviously the way he describes it,
Well,
I'm not
I
a
look.
massive fan of the
I
food, and
don't
I've
eat.
tried it. But
I haven't tried it. I
yeah.
don't like the idea of natto. I do
Hmm.
know you are supposed to mix it like mad.
Hmm.
People do say the more you mix it, the better it tastes. I have
Yes.
heard
Yeah.
that, but I will not agree with you on that. It did not make that seem any more appealing than it already was. I will, I will
Yeah.
die on this hill. I don't care. That still made natto look as gross as it already is.
There we go. Okay, yeah, but I don't know. I think it's the way it's shot. This is one thing. I still think like it just the
Well,
way it's shot.
agree
It
to
looks good.
disagree on
Well,
that.
yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, That's it. But yeah, I know.
I cannot believe out of everything you picked nut. Oh my god.
No, look, I'm saying that like every piece of food in this looks absolutely amazing. This is one thing. I feel like everything in this series is done.
um,
Like makes a box lunch. I'm not a massive fish guy either. The mackerel look freaking good.
yeah, the
The way you
mackerel
like
looked
do it.
delicious.
Yeah,
That looked amazing. And
yeah,
at the bar, I don't like tofu, but that tofu dish that he ordered, kasane or whatever it was,
yeah. Oh
that
yeah,
that
yeah,
did
yeah,
look kind of nice.
yeah. That's one thing. It's just like the angles and everything like that, man. It's just like it's so good. It looks so cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
one thing it definitely like I'm cemented in my mind is I definitely have to go and eat yakiniku next
Oh,
time I'm there.
I really want to do
I
yakiniku.
have
Yeah.
to. I have to absolutely
Yeah.
like yakiniku, croquettes.
Like everything they're doing in that fucking yakiniku episode looks so freaking good.
Yeah, right. Oh my
Like,
god.
yeah.
It's. I want to go to a proper yakitori place as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to try Odin, but because it's like hot food and it's sort of like a soup kind of thing,
Mhm.
I don't know how much I want to do that because I'm probably typically going to be in Japan closer to summer, and Japanese summers are disgusting, so I don't really want that much hot food.
Yeah, you'd rather have a coolish than a
Oh,
Odin
well,
at
of
that
course,
point.
but I mean, I'll have a coolish even if it was fucking the butt of winter. Like,
I get that. Yeah, like I feel like it definitely is more of a winter dish. I feel with Odin.
I do want to say though, if if there are younger viewers that end up watching this, one thing you gotta know is that day drinking is not good. Okay, do not it. We, the culture boys, do not condone it. We are not glorifying drinking. Drink responsibly, because one thing I did start thinking towards around probably episode 5 or 6, probably closer to 6. No, actually, maybe just after that, because the 5 and 6 he doesn't drink beer. But every time he drinks beer
Mhm.
during the day, there's a little like piano piece that starts playing,
Mhm.
and I could see how if you were a slightly more impressionable person, it might
Mhm.
seem like they're glorifying beer.
Mhm.
And I just want to point that out. Don't do that. Okay? Drink responsibly. That's all. That's all I want to say.
Yes, drink responsibly is the best way to describe that. I think that's the one thing with this is that, like, obviously what they're doing in this series is kind of doing like, a lot of pairings. I'd say,
Yeah.
like the way to describe it is like, oh, beer goes well with stronger flavors and stuff like that. So, like, bear in mind, drinking culture, drinking. There's a big drinking culture in Japan as well. There's like drinking cultures all over the world.
Yes.
So like, and obviously each one has a different I don't know, aspect to it, or whatever you want to describe it. There's very different ways of drinking in different places of the world. But yes, really, if you get over 60, just drink a midday beer. Apparently,
But yeah, I
that's it.
just as the one responsible thing I'll do this episode it's just point that out because it did really start feeling like, okay, I get it. Kasumi really likes his beer, and for some reason he really likes his beer at lunchtime. But like this piano music and everything, it's starting to make it seem a bit like beer in the afternoons is like the best thing you could do, and just don't.
Yes. Is there anything else we want to say about this before we wrap this up, Nathan? Anything else you want to
No. I thought there
say?
might have been, but honestly, not really.
I
It's
think we've wrapped up quite a lot. Like we've touched on a fair few points of this. I think as well, like we can only describe so much about this series.
yeah.
But like it's a completely different situation when you actually watch it because only when you watch it will you get the idea of like how this is told, how it looks, and like the way of the storytelling, the way the characters like develop. Well, develop is very strange because I don't think there's much character development in this.
Not really.
Uh, the best way to experience this is by watching it. Thank you if you have listened to this episode all the
Yeah.
way through. But if you haven't seen the series itself, I'd highly recommend it. That is the best way to get into this.
Yes. I
Uh,
would also highly recommend because I did a quick Google search before I did start watching it, and most of the things I saw were people asking for a season 2.
I'd love a season 2 for this. It's been a while, so I don't think it will happen.
I mean, like, it depends on what the original author is doing. But I mean, if it's just a sort of one-off thing that they did, then it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd be great if they did get a season 2, but at the same time, like it's just a great series to watch in general. So definitely like try it out. And like just want something nice, wholesome to watch, it's there.
Yeah. Again, it's good, and you might, if you're studying, you might learn some new words, some new vocab. You might get some listening practice in. I don't know. I think it could be a useful resource for like some sort of like Japanese study, though.
I think it's a great like if you I tell you what, if you're ever going to Japan and you want an idea of like what foods you'd want to try, I think that's a very good way of like
Yeah,
looking into it
and
as well.
if you are paying attention, like you also technically could learn how to order food and drink
That's a very
at the
good
same
point,
time
yeah.
because he does order food and drink all the time. At the very least, you'll know how to order a beer.
Like as a tourist as well when you're in Japan, like that's probably the biggest thing you can do. Like learn how to order stuff, like because you will need to do that. And it's like, yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, obviously you can Google it, but if you want to have a bit of fun and get a little bit of insight to what like culture's like over there,
Yeah,
it's good. It's a good way of doing it. I think. Yeah, I think we should probably wrap this up before we start
yeah.
going on any other
It's
tangents.
that ends up becoming a whole new thing.
Right. Well, thank you for listening, guys. Remember, if you like this episode, give it a like. Talk about it in the comments. Have you watched this? If you haven't, what other series would you recommend? All that kind of jazz. Let us know. Anything. Type anything in the comments. As long as it isn't offensive. Yay.
If you know any other series like this that you could recommend, let us know. We might check it out, and who knows, it might become an episode. It'd be interesting to see what else is out there.
Exactly that. Yes. And you could do that by following us on Twitter. You can send at us on Twitter and send us these recommendations. You can do it in the comments, but we're also on Twitter, so do that.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to us on the podcast platforms, they're in the description as well. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the description. Go check that out as well. Right. And that note, that's it for the Cultured Boys episode of the week. Yes, it's food. Yes, it's something. I'm going off on a tangent. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.